Are you gonna do the presentation? Are you gonna just talk to us?
Yeah, I have a couple of slides, but not a lot.
And by the way, for the context, I think Yuri and I, we know each other for, like, we've met probably 4 times.
Yeah, we don't really know each other. We've been to each other's houses a couple of times already, but
not a couple of times, once.
I've been to your house more than once. I think I've been to your house twice. I think.
Okay, maybe.
No?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe.
Salome, where are you from?
Me?
Well, Natalia, you from where?
I'm from Russia.
From which town?
From Saratov.
From Saratov, okay. Salome, well, how about you?
I'm from Georgia.
You're from Georgia, beautiful. Iran? Ирен, hello. Аз мисля, че ти си българка, нали?
Да, точно така.
Така. От какъв град си?
Аз съм от София.
От София. Много добре. Okay, let's start. So I have to share. Let me hold on for a second. Let's see how that works. All right, I think that's working, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you can see my screen. Okay, beautiful. So as you know already, my name is Yuri, and I started studying at AUBG in the fall of 1998. Just to give you the perspective, that was the time when the Skaptopara dormitory opened its doors, and I was the first resident, like among the first people to live there, right? It was pretty exciting. The start of my academic career was less than stellar, to say the least. As you can see, 237 GPA is nothing to write home about. I did improve after that, though, right? I was supposed to graduate in May 2002, but I took a leave of absence in my senior year, and I graduated in December 2002. I left for San Francisco in the spring of 2003. I had one medium-sized bag and $200 to my name. And that was the beginning of my journey in the search of money, of course, right? That's why you usually come to the US on a J1 visa, after all. I did find the money eventually. In 2019, together with the 2 business partners, we sold our consulting company. When we closed the transaction, the company had more than 50 people and an 8-figure annual revenue. When we started the company in 2011, it was my dream from the very beginning to sell it one day. So I was understandably ecstatic that it all worked out. And that was the pinnacle of my professional career, I think. So that's the money part. This will be a conversation about happiness and meaning. And it's only fair that I show you a big part of my happiness and my meaning. It's my family. I will be telling you what I discovered in the 22 years since I graduated from AUBG. And, this will be a conversation about money and about life. And I'm sure you all already know that life sometimes can be unfair, unjust, sometimes downright cruel. There's a big element of luck in life, and I consider myself a very lucky person. What I'm trying to say is that you should not regard what I tell you as some sort of ultimate truth. Rather than treat it as something to perhaps ponder about. And my hope is that what I will share with you today will be useful to you in your pursuit of money, meaning, and happiness. Let's talk about money first. I remember in my financial accounting class, which I was taking with Professor Alf Istergaard, he
Me too.
once asked the class what the most important thing for a company is. And students would say, employees, customers, technology, suppliers. And these things are all important, but the most important thing for a company is to have enough cash in the bank to pay its obligations, right? Because if you don't have money to pay your employees, you might as well shut down. On a similar note, when people talk about the most important skill set, they usually discuss soft skills versus hard skills. The truth of the matter is that the most important skill is the ability to sell. And I know that selling is often perhaps frowned upon, but good selling is a win-win transaction. It's an exchange of goods and services, right, for monetary value. But at the end of the transaction, both people are better off. So problem solving is the core of good selling. As such, you need to master the art of selling your skills and you.
We can't hear you, or I can't.
But if you are unable to convey the value you can bring to the table to other people, if you're unable to sell the skill sets you possess, you simply won't be able to apply your skills. And lastly, when it comes to selling, small pieces of wisdom. The first tip is to never give the number first, especially when it comes to negotiating your salary. Let the person offering you the job come up with the numbers, come up with the number first. The second tip is not to be afraid to ask, can you do better? It doesn't mean you should negotiate absolutely everything in your life, but you shouldn't be afraid to do so. Lastly, the general life tip is to always have an exit strategy. And some people call this a long term goal. So whether you start a job or you start a school or you start a company, you must have an exit strategy. And the long-term strategy or that long-term goal, it can change over time, but it must be present. Um, when I read about money online, I think the prevalent, the most popular sentiment in the financial blogosphere is that you should save and save aggressively. And I agree that saving is important and you should save a portion of your income for the future, for the rainy day. But there is a limit as to how much you can save by saving, by cutting expenses. And that limit is much lower than the limit as to how much you can make by attempting to increase your earning potential. So, as a rule, the mental effort to save can be better used to increase your income. And this is something just to keep in mind as you are navigating your financial life. Um, Lastly, I want to talk about when it's okay to stop working. And I know that it's probably a little funny talking about it because you are at the start of your earning careers, working careers, money making careers. but um, at some point in time, you probably would want to stop working or perhaps work less. Um, Now, if you're the kind of person who wants to make as much money as possible, you can sort of zone out for the next 3 minutes because that's easy. You just work as much as possible for as long as possible. But keep in mind that your health might deteriorate um, at some point in time in your life, and that health condition might preclude you from working as much as you'd want to. So a few interesting tidbits I want to share with you about money, and one of those is that if you ask people how much money they need to be absolutely happy, they usually say they usually answer that they need 2.5 to 3 times as much as they have. So whether they have 5,000 in the bank or 5 million, to be absolutely happy, usually it's 2.5 to 3 times as much. And on that topic, there's a funny story, a true story, about two writers who were at a party thrown by a very rich man, by a billionaire. And one of those people, one of the writers, was Joseph Heller. Joseph Heller is the guy who wrote Catch 22, right? This pretty famous novel. And his writer friend said, Joe, how does it make you feel to know that our billionaire friend only yesterday may have made more money than your novel Catch 22 has earned in its entire history? And Joseph Heller replied, this may be true, but I've got something he can never have. And his writer friend said, what on earth could that be, Joe? And Joseph Heller said, the knowledge that I have enough. So the moral of these two stories is that you need to be aware of the moving goalposts, so to say, as you progress through life and through your income. Today you need that much, and then you attain this number, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and then you need more. It's something called a hedonic treadmill. So it's important to keep that concept in mind. And luckily, we have this thing called the 4% rule to know how much money you need to call it quits. The 4% rule states that if you accumulate enough money where you can take 4% of the amount saved and live on it for a year, you're done. You can just live on that money invested. In other words, you need to accumulate 25% of your annual spending. So if you spend $1,000 a month, and this is all in, right? Your rent, your food, transportation, clothing, everything. So it's $12,000 a year. You multiply $12,000 a year by 25, it's $300,000. If you have $300,000 and you can spend $12,000 a year, you don't have to make more money. You're done. Okay, uh, enough about money. Let's talk about happiness. Um, you know a saying, a healthy man has 1,000 wishes, and a sick man has one wish only, to get healthy.
Hmm.
I think it's an old adage, but I think as I grow older, I'm 44 now, right? I'm turning 45 this year. I realize how important it is. And I also realize that whether it's going to the gym or running or simply walking, You must do this on a regular basis, and you must develop this habit. And the earlier you develop the habit, the better you will be long term, health wise, in your life. Um, One thing to keep in mind is that if at any point in time in your life you have a goal of losing weight, you need to remember that you cannot out exercise a bad diet. So you need to be mindful of what you eat and, most importantly, how much you eat. And you should always be mindful of that, right? But I just want to stress that if your goal is to lose weight, um, you need this is the most important part. Just like movement is intrinsically linked to healthy physical life and well-being, learning or acquiring new skill sets is linked to mental well-being. uh, I'm not a big fan of continuous learning. I belong to, I think, a vast majority of people who are happy with the status quo, and it's somewhat natural. Humans are inherently resistant to change, and acquiring new skill sets is by definition challenging. You may be lucky, you may be one of those few people who like learning new things. I don't. So I have to continuously push myself to learn new things so that I can keep my mind sharp. Just like I push myself to do my morning physical exercise routine. Speaking of pushing yourself, I want to say a few words about adversity. It's a bit ironic that I put adversity on the happiness slide. But if you think about it, to become really good at something and to provide value so that ultimately you can derive satisfaction from that process, you must apply a lot of perseverance and a lot of grit to learning those skill sets and knowing them well. And as a rule, it's hard. It's not meant to be easy, right? So my message is to be prepared for adversity and for injustice in life, and know that it is an important part of the game. When I encounter adversity, I try to think that I'm building mental calluses in my mind. Just like when you are picking up a shovel and you're starting to dig and you develop the calluses on your palms, they really hurt in the beginning, but then they harden and they actually help you to dig, right? Because your palms don't hurt as much because you have those calluses, those hard things. And your goal is to treat adversity as a chance to build that mental resilience. And it's the resilience which will allow you to overcome those misfortunes that you will encounter in life. Without a doubt, right? Everybody encounters misfortunes. Um, your ability to overcome the anxiety related to these misfortunes, this is something that the adversity will, ironically enough, help you develop. I like to make errors on the side of kindness. It's easy to live this way. You don't have to second guess yourself. And as they say, when you're in doubt, you should tip a little more in a restaurant. When it comes to making a choice between two things in life, or more than two, and I'm not sure what to do, I like to think about the long term effects, like really long term effects. You know, when people who are old or who are sick and they're dying in the hospital, they're sometimes asked, what is the thing that they regret doing or not doing enough in their life. And I guarantee you that not a single person said, I regret not working hard enough. I should have worked harder. I should have worked longer hours. I should have increased shareholders' value more. Said nobody ever on their deathbed. What usually people regret is not spending enough time with other people, with their fathers, mothers, with their sons and daughters, with their siblings, with their friends, with humans who matter to them. And that leads me to number one indicator of happiness and life satisfaction. It's not your career, it's not the amount of money you make, it's not where you live. The number one indicator of happiness and life satisfaction is the number of high quality human connections you have in your life. Humans are social creatures. They derive meaning from interacting with other like minded individuals. So if you're not sure which opportunity to take, or with all other things being equal, go where you think you will enjoy human interactions the most. The most important decision in your life is, surprise, not the major you pick, not which MBA program you decide to attend. It's not the profession which you decide to pursue. It's not even the country where you decide to live. The most important decision in your life is who you will marry. Specifically, who you will partner with to have kids with. So choose wisely. I think in our day and age, authenticity is somewhat underrated, especially with the tools like large language models and Photoshops and Tinders. And I think it's underrated unjustly so. Authenticity is about imperfection and vulnerability. Humans are surprisingly good at differentiating between a sales pitch and a genuine story. And I'm obviously not talking about someone's attempt to deceive or to scam you. I'm talking about normal day to day interactions at work or social life. When you show real you, when you show your imperfections and vulnerability, people relate to you. And I think it's a little underrated nowadays, and you should use it to your advantage. There is a saying, money won is twice as sweet as money earned. And I agree with that. I'm a poker player. Money won is twice as sweet. My take on this expression is that money given to a good cause is twice as sweet as money spent on yourself. It makes me feel genuinely good when I can give a small part of my financial resources or my time and improve someone's life. And if you haven't done it before, I encourage you to try it. You might like it more than you think you would. And I specifically want to encourage you to give back to our alma mater, AUBG. Okay, this is a bit of a bombastic title. But what the heck? It's my presentation, right? So I can give titles as I please. I define the meaning of life as enjoying the passage of time in a meaningful way. The main thing to derive from this definition is that the meaning of life is not the end goal, it's the journey. And this is a bit of a tough concept to grasp for me, even now, because I have a financial mindset. I like counting things, I like defining goals and numbers. I'm a data driven person. But when you define the meaning of life as enjoying the passage of time in a meaningful way, you have to keep reminding yourself that your job is to derive the maximum value out of the process, out of the present moment. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have dreams or ambitions or aspirations. You absolutely should, but you need to continuously remind yourself to live in the moment. Today is unlike any other day. Tomorrow will be different, and you must learn to enjoy the process of living through today with all the ups and downs that the present moment brings. And that's all I got for you guys.
I did that.